everybody, Jerry Bellini here. Welcome to my studio. Thank you for coming back again. I'm so happy to have you. So I always like to try to pop on and talk to you for a minute or two before or after I make a video. I'm going to try to keep this short because this video is a little long. So when I originally made my needle book, I made it before I made the video because I wanted to make sure that, you know, I had a nice video for you. So I always make a sample first. All right, now fast forward to making the video. So some of the video is made with this little book and some of it is made with this book. And I just want to take a second and explain something to you. So originally I made a 3x3, and then I decided, well, I never like to do the same thing twice. I just, that's the way I am. So the second one I made a 4x4. Here it is. And I did slow stitching on the piece of Scrappy Patch that I made. That was it. I didn't put any embellishments on there. I wanted to give you the option, another option, because I know we like options. We all like a lot of options, don't we? So anyway, this book got a little out of hand, and I did videotape this when I was putting the inside in, and I just went like this, the inside. When I was putting the pages in, I did video it. And I was hysterical. I was laughing so hard because the whole inside is totally, it totally took some kind of a crazy turn. Totally different. But I said, you know what? I'm going to publish this anyway. And I was talking to myself and it was crazy. So this is a bonus video. I'm going to publish both of them at the same time, and I hope you'll watch this, and I hope you'll enjoy it, and I'm not going to show you the inside of it, but the inside is very different. Okay, that's it. I'm not going to show you the inside. This book is very different on the inside than the other one. So I hope you enjoy this video. Please leave me a comment. Please consider subscribing. Please share my videos. My channel is really doing well. I'm very happy about it, and I have you guys to thank. So sending lots of love and big hugs and thanks. And I will see you again next Friday. Bye for now. Basically, this is part 2 from last week's video, Scrappy Patches. So this week we're going to create this little needle book using the Scrappy Patches that we made last week. I got 2 pieces ready here, so you're going to need 2 pieces of Scrappy Patch, and this time I did it a little differently. I did cover exactly how I made the patches last week, but I wanted to give you the option of not embellishing them with little pieces of whatever, but to just use some slow stitch cloth. So I made a piece of slow stitch cloth. I'm trying to give you as many options as I possibly can. My goal here in these videos is to inspire you to create. So just keep that in mind. Anyway, if you like to do slow stitching but you didn't want to do any embellishing, you could do that. So these 2 patches are slow stitched, and when I do slow stitching on any kind of cloth, I always use a backing. And the backing fabric is always a very, very thin cotton cloth. So I basted that on first, and then I just went and did some random stitching on both of these patches. Now, the patches have to be, and here, remember I told you to get a piece of cardboard? So you've determined what size you want your book. I told you to cut out a piece of cardboard, and if you have embellishments on top of this, you would have to stay within the parameter of the cardboard. The reason for that is we are going to be bending this under, and we wouldn't want like a button or something to be right where we need to fold it. So here's your cardboard. I'm going to use a 4-inch piece of cardboard. This week I'm going to make a bigger book, 4 inches. And because there's no embellishing on this to hinder the folding, it's just slow stitching, and that's not going to hinder the folding of the fabric. I'm laying down my 4-inch piece, and I want to make sure that my slow stitching at least is under here. It can stick out further, but it has to be at least underneath this cardboard. Hopefully that is clear. You're going to need 2 pieces of thick cardboard. Now, I recycle. I don't go out and buy book board. So I just wanted to show you that I got my cardboard from a sketchbook. It's the back of a sketchbook, and the cardboard back here is pretty thick. I don't know if you can see that in the video or not, but it's a pretty thick cardboard. And how you will determine if it's the correct cardboard is you'll try to bend it, and it really doesn't want to bend. So you need 2 pieces of thick cardboard in the size that you want your book. You also need 2 pieces of thin cardboard, and this can be cereal box. So 2 pieces of cereal box, bendy. Do not use the thick cardboard for these second 2 pieces. You want the thin cardboard for that. And it has to be 1/8 of an inch smaller than your thicker cardboard. Okay, 1/8 of an inch smaller. All right, we got that. You're also going to need 2 pieces of, I'm calling this lining fabric. They're not quite square, you can see that. But I do definitely want to get at least, I don't know, 3/4 of an inch to an inch around the outside edge of your thin cardboard. Okay, this one's really much better. So you see that? The thin cardboard, 2 pieces of lining fabric. This is the inside. So you can use decorative fabric if you want, or plain. I tea dyed some of this, so that's what I'm using. It's a muslin. You're going to need 2 pieces of muslin. It can be the same as your lining if you want, or it can be different. And it is going to be used, get your thicker cardboard now, as the spine. So I ripped my edges. If you don't want the ripped edges, I'll show you later what you can do to make a finished edge. It has to overlap at least. So just think about it before you start cutting anything up. Think about how wide you want your spine. And it is a little fluffy opening. See, it is a little fluffy. That doesn't bother me at all though. So anyway, just think about your sizing and what you're trying to accomplish when you're deciding about the thickness here. Now another product that I used, if you don't have any wool and can't get any wool, is I have this old flannel, and it is really quite thick. So it's not your standard size flannel, it's quite thick. And it does work nicely for the inside of this. Now, I am going to tell you to have a pinking shears and cut the edge. So let's just cut the edge on that. And you see, it doesn't fray. So your goal is to find something that you're going to use as a page that when you cut it with a pinking shears, it won't fray. Now I cut this piece of wool. It's way too big. It's way too long. And I'll go back and trim it after the book is done. So don't trim it ahead of time. It needs to be a little smaller than the actual book. And then I'll put the pinking scissors around the outside edge of that. So let's just set that aside. cardboard's taken care of, you're going to need a bookbinder's needle and I'm using waxed linen. You can use whatever thread you want. And you are going to definitely need some glue. I love this Aleene's tacky glue. It worked really well. I did try to use fabric glue. It did not work. It did. I was really surprised that fabric glue did not work on fabric. But maybe it was the cardboard and the fabric. I'm not really sure. It didn't work. I won't recommend it. Use the Aleene's. The first step, pick up one of your Scrappy Patches, and it doesn't matter which one. You can choose which one you want to use for the front and for the back after the fact. So I'm going to place my cardboard down, and you want to place it in such a way that you're happy with what's underneath it. So if you did do the embellishing, you want to make sure that the embellishing is all under the cardboard. Take a second and just kind of look and see where the best spot is for your cardboard. Now I'm going to cut away and leave at least an inch, or around an inch I should say, of cloth around my patch. So an inch bigger than the cardboard. And I'm using a rotary cutter. I have my glue there, I have my brush, I have my cardboard. Here I have it open on a magazine so that as I get my surface full of glue, I can turn the page and have a clean page. So I'm all ready. I have a nice damp rag over here in the corner for my fingers if they get too gluey. And I'm going to start by putting glue all over this piece of cardboard. And now I'm going to pick up my cardboard. This is a clean page on this side, and I'm going to lay this down, and I've already auditioned it, so I can tell by looking at the back of it where I want to put this. And now I'm going to check it and make sure that I've covered everything I need to cover and that I'm happy with the placement. You do have a little bit of leeway here. You can pull this off a little bit and just move it just a hair if you need to. After about, I don't know, a minute, it starts to get where you can't do that. Okay, that looks good. I'm happy with that. So just smooth it down. Now before we do the corners, just double check your corners to make sure that you don't have like a huge seam in there. So I have a seam in there, so I'm just going to trim that away. And I might have to trim a little more when I get back to that corner. So now we're going to start to fold the corners in. Something got me. And I'll show you before I put the glue on. You're going to fold it in like that, just like you wrap a package, and then you're going to fold it over and over. Now, if for some reason, let me exaggerate this, if for some reason it's like this and it's overlapping and it's creating a big lump, it's because you didn't get the fabric pushed down in that crease enough so that when you folded it over, you see what I mean? You have to push that fabric down in the crease and then fold it over so that it's not bulky. You want it to be as smooth and as flat as you possibly can get it. Okay? So now I'm ready to do the gluing, and I'll show you. I'll just glue one corner and show you. So I'm going to glue this corner, and then I'm going to glue this corner. So put some glue along the edge, and it's if you can get the glue along the side of the cardboard, you'll be able to get a better crease on the corner. Okay, so let's do this one together. Fold it over, push it down, push it in the crack with your fingernail, and then fold it over. You might need to put a little glue on top of this corner piece of fabric. Forgot to mention that. That'll help hold down these two corners, these two side pieces. Same thing on this side. Push it in the crack. And because there's glue in the crack, see, that's great. Now you can just take your fingers and go like this with the corner. And it's not going to be a sharp point because it's just too many layers there, but it will make a nice corner. See? Alright, so now I've got glue under there. Now I have two layers here. I have the lining and I have the Scrappy Patch. So you might need some glue in there if you did a lining. So just go ahead and put some glue in there. Take a few minutes and just mess with the corners and this side. Make sure that you're happy with it and that it's as flat as you can get it. And then get a piece of wax paper, I forgot to put that in the supply sheet, and put it face down, the glue side face down on the wax paper, and put a heavy object on top of it and leave it overnight. So now we're going to do the same thing for the lining. And if you used a cereal box, it probably has some kind of pattern print ink on it. Don't put that face down. It might show through, which, see, in this case it does. So use the clean side of the cardboard face down. All right, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to put a light coating of glue. If you happen to be using a pattern cloth like I did in here, you want to just make sure that you're on straight grain or straight pattern or whatever. So this is much easier, obviously, because you don't have the thick layers. All right, we're back. It's the next day, and everything is nice and dry. My pieces are nice and flat, and I have laid them out. I want this to be the front cover and this to be the back cover. Here's my spine. I'm ready with that. If you want to do your spine without a raw edge at the top, just cut a long strip of cloth and fold it in on itself like that. And just do a little running stitch there, and then like that, and then you can use that piece because it's 2 layers, and you'll have a finished turned over edge at the bottom and the top. I decided to do 2 pieces of wool, and I pinked the edges, but don't pink. When I say pink, you know I mean these pinking shears. Don't do this outside edge. You can do that after the book is complete. So then you'll know exactly where to cut. So I made my pages. You can see I made my pages about the size of the book. And then when it folds in half, of course, you know, when things fold in half and they're bulky, they are not going to be even. See? If you're a bookmaker, you know what I mean, that little lip there. All right, so what I did is I just placed it in the middle to see, folded, to see if that's a good size for the spine. And it looks pretty good to me. I'm happy with that. So I'm going to stay with the 3/4 of an inch. So let's just move that out of the way. We're going to do that later. That's last. So now that we know where we want to put our spine, then these two pieces go on top. And remember I told you to cut these, the thinner cardboard just a little bit smaller than the cover. And that's so it doesn't go over the cover. You want it to go inside like that. So now's the time to make any adjustments if you need to trim off anything on your spine. I'm happy with that. So now we're going to glue that down. So just lift back this piece, get your glue back out. I think I mentioned yesterday that I like to keep my glue in a container. So now you're going to put a nice amount of glue right along the edge there. And make sure it's centered from top to bottom. So there's nothing really holding these two layers together, so I just folded back the top layer a little bit, and I'm going to put glue in between here. Fold that back and just double check your grid, and now put glue on the other side. And the grid is going to help you keep your book straight too. So I'm going to put glue on the inside and make sure that you get it right up to the edge. So I'm using a small brush that I have more control over, and I'm really just rubbing it in there right at the edge. That's a nice amount of glue. So now I'm going to put the glue on the other side. This is the inside of the front cover. And just be careful you don't go into your spine. Don't go all the way to the edge because you do have a 1/16 of an inch border around that. All right, that looks good. So now you're going to have to put the piece of wax paper over this again and put it under a heavy object. And then tomorrow we'll be ready to stitch that in. Super cute! Okay everyone, little change of plans here. I am now going to show you how to make the insert for the original NeedleBook, and that will be 1 page. The book that I've been working on with you wound up morphing into something very different than I had originally planned. And so I decided to create a bonus video for you showing you how I finished that book. So I hope you'll watch that, and I look forward to hearing your comments and thoughts about how I finished the second book. And I hope you enjoyed this video. All right, it's time to put your page in. You're going to need a piece of thread. I'm using waxed linen, and I've got this about 3 to 4 times the height of the book. So it's just about 4 times the size of the height of the book. And I'll have extra, but I want to put dangles on it. So the first thing you're going to do is make a paper template. And you just lay it down. I don't measure anything. I'm just going to use this piece of paper. So you lay it down on your spine, and then you can decide where you want your holes. And you're going to need 3 holes. And come off the end, the top and bottom, at least a 1/2 inch. Okay, so then just lay your paper down and use your pokey tool and poke your holes in. Okay, and unfortunately you can't do that with your wool because you won't see the holes even if you poke holes in there. They just won't stay. So what I recommend is you start on the outside, especially if you want to do dangles. And you put your thread through there. And just leave yourself enough of a tail so you can have a dangle. And then fold your wool in half. And you can use your paper template so you have an idea of where the center is right there. So then it's a little convoluted doing it this way, but because the fabric is so soft, you can't really mark it, but it works. So there's my needle coming up through the center of that. And I'm working with a very short piece of string, so just be careful you don't lose your string. What I'm going to do is fold my book in half so that the wool is folded, and then I'm going to stick a straight pin in from the spine out. Like that. Can you see that straight pin? So now I know where to put my needle to go back down to the front. So just get through the wool. Doesn't have to be exact. Now I can pull the straight pin out, because now I can just move the wool back and I can see the hole in the front cover. Okay. And going back here is pretty simple. You're just going to go back into the same hole and flip it over and make sure that you go back into the same hole with the wool, or really close to it. There we go. Just check yourself to make sure that you don't have a loop, a big loop or extra thread with this waxed linen. So now I'm going to go back down, and if everything is straight, I can kind of aim, and I see I'm right there at the hole, right there. So I'm just going to come back through. And that is it. Call it macaroni. Now I'm going to take this off. Yes, easier said than done. And what I like to do before I actually tie the knot is I like to put this thread underneath. And I should have left the needle on to do that. Underneath there. Because when I tie my knot, I like the knot to be right in the center, and it kind of helps it to be right in the center. And just make sure your thread has got no loops in it before you actually tie your knot. That's it. This is waxed linen, so I don't really even have to tie a double knot. I can just tie a single knot. And that's it. And now I'm just going to, put my buttons on there. You don't have to watch me do that. And now it's time to trim this, and you can see it's uneven because it moves around. It's so much easier to do paper. So now I'm just going to trim this off. I'm going to eyeball it right about here. Okay, that's it. Isn't it cute? I think it's adorable. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching. And there is a bonus video that I hope you will enjoy coming right after this one. I'll explain it in a minute. Bye for now. See you next Friday.